Hi, this is TJR. I'm a musician and a music writer.
And this is Robert Kinsler, and I'm a music writer and a musician.
And the class of 2019, inductees,
right,
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, announced today.
Just today, yeah, on December 13th, 2018, but they will be inducted in March of 2019.
That's right. And the internet has already lost its mind, or is thrilled, depending on your point of view.
Yeah, there, as usual, as greets with the nominations and then the announcement of what nominees actually get inducted.
Yeah,
that's always a lot. You know, all the music fans, all the music sites. Oh yeah. I just posted. I did a quick little post on musicworthbuying.com this morning with thoughts and some links to the reviews of some of the artists that are getting in. And boy, it immediately started this, back and forth and stuff about, well, I think that this is a bunch of BS. This, who cares about a person? Or like, I don't like it, but I'm glad Def Leppard got it. I mean, all the comments are all over the place, as you would expect. So I thought what we would do is first, for those that do know, maybe they don't know, I thought we'd run through those artists that are getting in and maybe talk briefly about some of the artists that didn't get in this year that perhaps hopefully we'll see back, maybe on a list of nominees next year or the year after or something. Sure. So we'll go kind of alphabetical. So we're looking at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame site. Here, I'll point this real quickly here so you can see they have videos and nice pictures and stuff like that. So the first band that's getting in is The Cure. So,
so I should let you take the reins here because you are a much larger, bigger Cure fan. I only know their hits, and I've always been saying I need to explore their albums more, and I've been meaning to do that. But maybe this will finally push me to do it.
I'm going to have to chain you to a chair or something, and then my wife Kim, who's totally into The Cure, make you listen to all her albums. So, but no, I've seen The Cure many times. I've had the chance to review them. I saw them for the first time back in the '80s, actually. So, but yeah, I'm a huge fan. Robert Smith, who's the lead singer, primary songwriter, obviously the iconic guitar player. He's has such a signature sound that's been adopted and utilized by many other groups, including 311. Just a really great artist and so deserving of getting in. I'm glad his time has come. I don't know if he'll show up at the ceremonies. I'm wondering about, and I'll talk about the other artists. I wonder if they'll show up, but I'm hoping The Cure do show up. They don't come to America nearly enough. So if this gets them to Brooklyn, New York, in March of 2019 for the induction ceremony, bring it on.
Cool.
So the next artist is someone that I think you'll know very well, and that's Def Leppard, and they're also bound for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes. And, hey, it sounds good to me. I think you probably, in your article, I actually read your article, I think you made the best comment I've heard about Def Leppard. And please, I'm paraphrasing, but please correct me here. I think it was along the lines of how they combined AC/DC style riffs with Beatlesque vocal harmonies. I think you said something along those lines. Queen. There you go.
When you listen, and I don't recall. I did interview lead guitarist Phil Collin back a few years ago, and I think I don't know if he mentioned it or if in researching for that article, I'm not the first to say it, but that is kind of what you think in mind, that AC/DC and Queen were major influences, I think, on Def Leppard, and they were able to take some of their influences and make it into something that was new and worked for them, and obviously connected with a lot of fans. Whenever I see them, they have so many great songs. The crowd loves them, and they're still, delivering in concert many years later.
They can deliver it live, yes.
They definitely can. I'll never forget one memorable concert. I saw the two headliners were not AC/DC, but were Def Leppard and Heart, and that was a great concert. Two great bands. So I'm very happy for them. Then the next artist is somebody you're much more familiar with,
a little
bit with, and that's Janet Jackson.
Yes.
Right.
And I know we talked about this when we announced the nominees, as that Control during the '80s, when I was mainly hanging out doing heavy metal stuff. Janet Jackson's Control album was one of my guilty pleasures. It's no longer guilty pleasure; it's just a pleasure. I enjoy that album a lot. But aside from that, I'm only familiar with her hits on just more of a surface level. That's the only album I've really dug into, and I think she's made some really great music. I think she's extremely talented. There is the question, of course, should she be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Is it rock? You know, and this is a thing that comes up every year.
Yeah,
you know,
it does.
Rap artists have already been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Are they rock? You know, or should we change the name of it? Should we start calling it the Popular Music Hall of Fame rather than the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, I think when you have Percy Sledge, who's definitely a soul singer, he's in there. Hall & Oates, who did pop and R&B and Philadelphia soul, you know, and I was fully behind Hall & Oates getting in there. They're the world's probably most successful duo ever. And I think Janet Jackson, you have to, you know, the kind of popular music that that she did and Michael Jackson did.
In the Jackson 5.
Yeah, in the Jackson 5, I think in the Temptations and groups like that, it's definitely deserving of going, you know, and I used to be kind of probably on the naysayer.
Yeah.
But now I've kind of evolved on it, and I say, you know what, now that we've kind of opened the door, I think now you have to give everybody an equal
chance.
Yeah,
an equal footing.
Yeah.
Because how can you not acknowledge, the moment you start, you have to acknowledge all the blues artists who influenced all the rock artists that you love.
Exactly.
You have to acknowledge Robert Johnson. You have to acknowledge Buddy Guy and all these people who are blues. You have to acknowledge them. And then how can you not acknowledge all the soul and R&B performers during that golden age period that were equally influential to all of that? And if you start acknowledging that, then you have to open the door to everybody else, and that includes Janet Jackson, that includes Michael Jackson,
and Prince, and all that.
And Prince,
yeah.
And how can you not acknowledge Prince when he plays guitar, you know, like Hendrix?
Yeah.
You know, when he's almost practically, you know, when he was alive, he was almost this living embodiment of Hendrix in many respects. How can you not acknowledge that? So I think it just becomes, you know, it's like, I think we've opened the gate.
Yeah.
You have to let everybody have their chance now. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I used to be more of a naysayer too, and like, okay.
Yeah, because I used to say, hey, it's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You got to just put rock artists in there, you know. But now that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland has kind of acknowledged, like, no, we're going to be more diverse in our selection process. You know, we're artists like Madonna. You know, we didn't mention her, but if those types of artists that were not really rock artists in any the traditional sense, you know, then I think you need to be fair-minded and let them in there. So, but now the next artist is associated with rock, and she's no stranger to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because she got in with Fleetwood Mac, but now she gets in as a solo artist, and that is
Stevie Nicks, of course.
Stevie Nicks. And I believe she is the first female artist to get in twice. Someone like Eric Clapton has got in multiple times. Paul McCartney's got in, Ringo Starr. They've got in twice as band members and solo artists. And now finally we have the first woman that makes her presence felt. And I just saw Stevie Nicks in December of 2016, and she put on a great show. And I saw her way back in the US Festival days in '83. And again, she's had this long, enduring career. Yeah. I know there's been a lot of controversy because of the Fleetwood Mac.
We're not going to talk about that. Okay. That's not what this is about.
That was another episode. Yeah. But anyway, Stevie Nicks, does she deserve to get in? Yes, she does.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and again, I think this is a very strong class this year. The next artist is somebody that we're both very familiar with.
And it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, kind of a no-brainer. And I was surprised when they didn't get in last year, and that is
Radiohead.
Yeah. And Radiohead I've seen a handful of times, and I'm telling you, the band just blows your mind. Yeah. You know, it's almost like you just have to listen to, but it's a no-brainer that they get in.
I would say you're more qualified to talk about them than me. I am deeper than a casual fan. I have a handful of their albums, but you have, I think, multiple handfuls of their albums.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
if not all of them.
Yeah, and with the exception of King of Limbs, which I do like, but I think it's such a dense electronica kind of and that's very difficult unless you give it multiple listens. But other than that, almost all their albums, they kind of they challenge you as a listener. But boy, once you just get the hooks, get what they're doing, the music just delivers in ways that most artists just cannot deliver.
Even though I'm kind of somewhere between casual and hardcore, I acknowledge what they've done. I can appreciate what they've done, with the level of reverence that their fans have for them, and I can see why. Just from the few albums that I do have, I can see why they've earned that reputation.
Yeah, definitely deserving. We have two more artists to go that are getting in. The next artist is an artist that I acknowledge. I know the name very well. I'm just not that familiar with their music beyond Avalon, and that's a oversight I should obviously correct between now and the induction ceremony. Yeah. But that's Roxy Music.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not real familiar with their music. They have obviously earned their reputation. Hopefully, if anybody out there who is more familiar with them wants to talk about them in the comment section and tell us a little bit more about how we should approach their music. And how others should approach their music if they haven't heard them before. And if you want to recommend like some albums, like here's where I would start if you were going to try to listen to Roxy music, please do so in the comments. We're open to this, and I'm sure all of our viewers are. And we don't claim to know everything. We don't claim to know every music by every artist. There's, we're only human beings. We can only hear so much.
And with every passing day, every passing week, as I get more and more releases, it's like, oh gosh, I have more stuff to catch up on that I can't get to. So yeah, and that's one of the great things about this process too. It's like John Prine was one of the nominees. He did not get in this year. I happened to be able to see him a few years ago, and it was a joyful listen. I'm glad it introduced me to him, and I loved it. And I unfortunately never had the chance to see Roxy music, but I'm looking forward to seeing the induction ceremony and seeing what happens. Now, the last band that gets in is the one that's personally the one I was most happy to see.
It's a huge one for you.
It's a huge one for me. I've got to meet Colin Blunstone backstage at one of the shows. I've seen the Zombies a number of times, including when the surviving members performed Odyssey and Oracle in its entirety, and that's the Zombies. I truly believe that they were one of the great bands to come as part of the British invasion, along with the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, and the Beatles. And to me, it was such a so just as a music fan, I was really bummed that they weren't not getting in. I go, don't the voters, don't they know who the Zombies were? They were pretty much the first band to blend jazz and pop and rock and blues, and so groundbreaking, and just they continue to, even today, to be so amazing. If you have not seen the Zombies, they continue to tour with Rod Argent on keyboards and Colin Blunstone on lead vocals. Go see the Zombies, and boy, like I was saying, told somebody on Facebook, won't it be great to see them do Time of the Season next year at the induction ceremony? They're going to kill it and show the youngsters how to get it done. So, and they've been around since 1961 and still going strong.
And I'll just say that Odyssey and the Oracle, after I first heard that album, I thought, wow, this is one of the great underappreciated concept albums. So I'll just say that. Yeah,
and it was recorded in Abbey Road Studios right after Sgt. Pepper's.
Oh,
and I think they even utilized some of the same gear that the Beatles had just used, and Jeff Emmerich, I know, was involved in most of the tracks for that album.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, and it's if nothing else, just stream it on YouTube or Spotify. Listen to Odyssey and Oracle, and then just gear up to watch the Zombies. But overall, I would say, TJ, and I don't know what you think, just this is since maybe the first couple of induction ceremonies, this is just a really great, strong field of artists representing, many different styles. And it was nice to see so many British artists get in, because I know some of the word on the street is, with bands like the Smiths and the Cure and the Zombies, they've kind of been ignored. And it was nice to see kind of a little bit of that, swept away with this year's announcement.
I don't have any comment either way, but I appreciate what you have to say about it.
Now, what do you think about, now I know we talked off camera before, and I know I mentioned John Prine, but like Todd Rundgren, do you think some of these other artists will ultimately, that were in the field of nominees but didn't get announced today, do you think they'll get in the future? What do you think?
I think that any artist that left a good solid mark on music history, on popular music history, I think eventually they're all going to get their day. They're all going to get their moment. Anybody who's there saying, it's a crime that so-and-so hasn't gotten in yet, and I'm not disagreeing with that, because to me it's been a long time. It's been a no-brainer. Why not Radiohead? And I'm not even a hardcore fan, but to me it's like, it should be obvious that Radiohead should be inducted. Why did it take so long? But eventually I think everybody will get that moment.
Yeah, everyone deserving will get their due. Yeah.
To me, the greatest thing about these type of things is when I get the chance to see the live performances that come out of those shows. And I feel the same way about the Grammys. To a certain extent, I could care less who wins at the Grammys. I really could care less.
But you want to see a good, show.
What I like is to see the many unique pairings at the Grammys that only happen there, like, you know, Metallica and Lang Lang performing together.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Things like that. To me, that makes those shows worthwhile. Is those one-of-a-kind performances.
Oh, yeah.
And there have been a lot of great one-of-a-kind performances at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
I think it was at the Grammys, speaking of Radiohead, where Radiohead performed with like the USC marching band or something. I mean, you don't normally see Radiohead like on American television. You might see him on Jules Holland or something. Yeah. And of course, but those kind of moments, like you're saying, I agree with you. You don't necessarily remember who wins or who loses. There's so many categories, and they don't even announce all the categories on camera. But what you remember is the memorable performances. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I think they usually broadcast it on HBO, but then it is usually subsequently released on Blu-ray and DVD too.
So many amazingly awesome performances, and one-of-a-kind performances, one-of-a-kind team-ups, pairings that you just would never see ever again. And to me, that's the best thing about these ceremonies. You know, as far as they're concerned.
One thing that's really bittersweet to me too is I know Tom Petty was a huge Zombies fan, and I wish they would have got into why Tom Petty was alive. I actually saw the Zombies in 2015 at the El Saban Theater. That's where they did the Odyssey and Oracle tour, and the publicist said, "Hey, after the show, I want to make sure you get to go back and meet the band." Well, it's a long story why I couldn't, but basically the long and short of it is what Tom Petty was spending so much time. He was a huge fan, and he was backstage with them, and they didn't want, and I understand that they don't want all these kooky fans like me coming back there and bothering and Tom Petty and stuff. But you know, it would have been nice because I know that I've even heard him like one of his concert things where he mentioned, I think the Zombies were one of the first bands he ever saw when he was a teenager growing up in Florida.
I did not know that.
That's a great thing about this, about the history of these artists, how the great artists that emerged, you know, they influenced somebody. You know, like I think I read once like Tom York loved Brian May's guitar playing in Queen. You know, Queen influenced Radiohead. Radiohead influenced probably Coldplay or something. You know, and that whole great thing, that history of music that's so kind of celebrated, and that's why I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is very important.
I think that's really what you should take away from it. Yeah. I think that's well said. In fact, that was so well said, I'm not going to say any more.
Well, I guess so. We'll wrap up another episode. Huh?
Thank you, sir.
And thanks, and hopefully we'll get to check out the ceremony next year.
Yeah. Everybody, what were your thoughts? What do you think about who won, who didn't win? Say what you want to say about it. You know, let us know. And as always, if you like what we're doing, click like, click subscribe. You know, click notifications so you can know when we release new videos. And if you really want to help us keep making videos, please go to the Patreon page and become a patron supporter. Like I said, as little as a cup of coffee, just the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month. That's not asking too much. Pledge that and help us out here, and that'll make a huge difference in letting us continue to make these videos. Everybody, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.